Hello, hello. Today's day 14 of 21 days for cultivating a connection with your inner spirit. And I put inner spirit on it because I definitely know there's people that are agnostic, atheists, that have no belief in a higher power. And yet I go back to, I do think many of us, most of us can believe in a wiser part of ourselves. Like even if we just go to the neuroscience, when the nervous system is calmer, we have better access to calmer thinking, to decision making, to things like that. But for myself, again, I'm not here to tell anyone what to believe. Everyone has to find their own way. Hey, Ginger, everyone has to find their own way of what they believe. But I see this a lot. Why do bad things happen to good people? Why does God let bad things happen? And I think please know, this is Marty Murphy's personal view. I did have a very profound spiritual experience in my 20s that changed my life about how I saw things, having been raised in a very devout and abusive Catholic upbringing. So I see things very differently than I did, because the God of my understanding, if I said many times, was just a raging narcissist who was there messing with people, and who wants to trust that? Like I said, I was like, you could trust the devil better. There's always consistently a shit. Like that's how I looked at it. But my opinion on why bad things happen is, I think as humans, like, we create a very human-like God, being in a body, having a human experience. We create a God that's human, that's rather than it being an impersonal energy. Hey, Joan, rather than God being sort of an impersonal energy, which I think people are like, wait, that sounds so impersonal, but he becomes very personal to us. And like I said, when I had this super profound spiritual experience, I've seen things differently ever since. And I would say I have views that I think people might be, wow, that's pretty radical. Like, I don't personally believe this changed, and that Jesus was God's only son. I believe Jesus was a way shower that came to show us that we all have the capacity in us that he manifested, that he showed. Now, I've had people be like, that's crazy, or that's blasphemous, or whatever. Everybody's entitled to believe what they want. But my life changed dramatically after that experience, and it was quite profound. And I've felt a level of peace ever since. I did go through a period where I was like, why did I get all this information? I'm still sort of stuck in this body and having this human experience, and like, where do I go with all this? Now, having had tapping, and now having had a shift in I just feel like I have a spirituality that's becoming ever deeper. And like I said, I realized over in January, when I was quite sick, I was like, yeah, my spirituality has been a hobby. It's not been something I've been cultivating every day, and I've been doing it every day, and I see the big difference. So why do bad things happen? And again, this is my personal view on that. I think there is that piece of free will. I do think we're in a very different experience here as humans. And as I said, I've watched a lot of near-death experiences on YouTube, and I find them fascinating, because these people don't even know each other, and so many of them are saying the same thing. And then that Zach Bush, that MD, was in the ER, and in one night, he brought 3 people back from death. And the next morning, completely unrelated, very different backgrounds, vastly different. The next day he went and visited all of them, and every one of them said, why'd you bring me back? He goes, that's really deflating to a guy who's taught you've got to save lives. And that's what you hear in the near deaths. Like, all of them are like, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back into that body. I don't want to go back and do that. And yet they're given a choice. Do you want to go back and complete the lessons here, or do you want to go back and do it later? And again, I'm not here to tell people what to believe, but I just follow that train of thought. So for me, when I look at everything that happens in the world, there's stuff that really irritates me. There's stuff that's can be very upsetting to me if I focus on it too much, like animal abuse, child abuse, like all kinds of things like that. I do pay attention to, I heard this said about the biblical quote, turn the other cheek. So the way I was raised, it's like basically give him the other cheek to slap. And I love this idea of it. Turn the other cheek is turn away from what you don't want and turn towards what you do want. And that makes sense to me. So to me, in the world, like, I don't get truly too caught up in when the world's going to hell in a handbasket. Of course it is if we watch the news every night. Because the news is not there to uplift us. The news is not there to have us see things from a different perspective. It terrifies most of us. So, and then we go to bed on that, and it's like, no wonder we think the world's going to hell in a handbasket. And I am still the absolute belief there are way more good people in the world. They're just, many of them are not in positions of power, and many of them are not, you don't get the airtime. They don't get the airtime. Unfortunately, in our culture, the good stuff doesn't sell like the bad stuff does. So those are just things that I've seen. And the idea of bad things happen, for me, it's the free will concept. And I would also say I am a firm believer, because I've experienced a lot of stuff in my life that has not been great, and I've experienced great stuff. I literally have learned so much from all the, let's say, bad stuff that's happened to me. And have, I quote, paid a price for it? Sure. Yet, I also know it's given me a richer experience in life, and I think it's really helped me in many ways to find compassion in circumstances where I might not normally. Now, I'm a highly flawed, fallible human being, so I still get annoyed, I still get judgmental, I still get irritated about things, I still can be very opinionated about things, and I think that's part of the human condition. But if we get hooked into like, why does this bad stuff keep happening? And that idea of like, what if we could not like ignore it, not like toxic positivity, like just think happy thoughts and everything's going to be okay. That's can be spiritual bypass, where it's like, I'm just going to ignore everything and just like everything is happy thoughts. And people like that I've met, I'm like, wow, I've met people that I think are extremely angry because there's denial of reality. So to me, there's a really fine line here of going into experiences that are not really wonderful and not like allowing the truth. Thus why I wrote the books I did, The Forbidden Emotions, The Key to Healing. Because what I have found is when you allow your emotions, whatever they are, and you allow them in a safe and healthy way, you get to have whatever you experience yourself. If that's like you feel hatred towards someone, we could make all these biblical quotes and stuff about don't do that. But what I found is you're balancing the human condition with the spiritual part. And what I have found, and I've done thousands of sessions with people now, is when someone is allowed their truth, their unadulterated truth, they do become set free, especially if they tap through it. Because when you're tapping through it, what you're doing is you're changing your physiology, and you'll still have the same, like, you're not going to lose the memory, but the emotional charge that's attached to it is gone. So now you have access, let's just go, not the prefrontal cortex, the slower thinking part of the brain. And what I've found is as I've continued to heal the trauma in my life, it's opened me up to a richer experience of spirituality, of God, of the universe, the great spirit, whatever you want to call it. And that's been profound for me. And at the same time, just embracing that I'm in a body, having a human experience, and I have very human things that happen to me. So, and we're going to tap here shortly, that idea of like, what if the bad things that happen, they're not anything that's created by God? What if God is not going around like I was taught, like he's going to mess with you if you don't do this right? You're going to burn in the eternal fires of hell and damnation. It's like, as I've woken up from that, I'm like, for me personally, that makes no sense to me. It makes more sense to me that we keep evolving, and whether you believe in reincarnation or not, I'm not asking anybody to believe anything. I was like, that always made more sense to me when I started seeing that than what I was raised with in my upbringing and the religion I was in. So again, it's for each of us to find our own way and to decide what's right for us. But what if God is not letting bad things happen? What if it's the evolution of the soul? What if we each come in with a soul curriculum? And we're here to learn from that and to evolve from that. And I have found personally, I evolve more through the rough times. The good times are great. They're wonderful. They're needed. They're necessary. But for me, the depth within which I see things now that I couldn't see before through the hard times, through the rough things, it's been tremendous. So anyway, that's my long monologue, but let's just tap. Hi, Haiti. Karate chop. Even though I don't get it, why does God let bad things happen? And bad things happen to good people. I don't understand that. I choose to acknowledge this truth right now. Even though I don't get it. This isn't a God I would trust that lets all this bad stuff happen. What if I could see this differently? Even just 1% now. Even though I don't understand it, why do so many bad things happen? And happen to good people? I choose to acknowledge I feel this way now. And go to that. I don't get it. Why does God let bad things happen? Why do people suffer needlessly? I've prayed for things I want to happen. And sometimes they happen. And sometimes they don't. And then I have things I've prayed for forever, it seems like. And it still doesn't happen for me. Am I doing something wrong? Is this just another way something bad is happening? Because I'm not getting these things that I want? I don't know how to wrap my head around this. Bad things happening in the world. People suffering. It makes no sense to me. But what if it's not about God letting bad things happen? What if it's really about free will? And what if humans do have free will? In that they behave the way they want to behave? They can commit violent acts? They can be really good and helpful to people? And what if it's possible that each of us has a curriculum that we come into this life with? And what if it's not about God letting bad things happen or God punishing people who aren't doing all the right things? What if it could be possible there really is a spirit of love. But we've just drifted so far away from it at times that we've lost our true self, our true center. So the world might appear like it's falling apart. But what if it's not about God letting these bad things happen? What if it's about us, each individually, learning where we're going to stand within all this? Will we give in to the terror and fear? And what if we can allow ourselves to experience that terror and fear, but do it in a safe and healthy way that allows us to process that emotion so that we can free our nervous systems from this? And what if that starts to create the space to see this all so differently? Different than we've been taught. And what if, by allowing ourselves our truth and actually processing through them, that very human part of us quiets down, and then space is made available for our inner spirit to come through, to guide and direct us? And what if we become better able to hear that quiet voice within us that is directing us, that does love and care about us, that wants to help us? And I don't even have to believe this yet. But what if I could entertain the idea that the bad things that happen in the world and into me are actually there to ultimately have me establish, cultivate, maybe just rekindle a connection with my inner spirit that's actually always there for me. And take a breath. And again, it's in the tapping world, you want to honor your truth. If your brain's like that's your roadmap I want to tap on. I don't believe in any of this. That's crazy. That's bullshit. No, thank you. No. But the caveat is to tap, because tapping is what releases the stress. It lowers cortisol levels, lowers adrenaline. And I have found that myself, like when I get that muckety muck out of the way, all of a sudden a space is created. And it's like, wow, I start to listen and I start to trust. And I'll give you a little example. Recently, I don't even remember who this person was, but somebody and I were talking about something, and I thought to tell them something that was quite private, and I got the little intuitive thought, don't. Just don't. And I was just like, I'm just going to trust that. And I didn't. And then I found out, like I literally, it's like a blank to me, remembering what that was. I was like, no, that actually was really good that I didn't say anything. And I noticed those little moments more and more. It's like if you hear, let's say you're driving and you hear that, go left, turn here, make that phone call. It's that very quiet voice. And it's so easy to ignore that because the world and all of its wah, wah, wah is so loud. I always liken it to Charlie Brown when I was a kid and the teacher's voice, wah, 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 wah. It's just, that's the voice of the world. That's the voice of the news. That's the voice of the culture we live in. That's the voice on the billboard. And I say this all the time. When you look at advertising, what are they trying to sell you? And how are they trying to sell it to you? And it's usually they want to hit a fear point. And that's very, what's the word? It's very provocative to be like, oh, I'm in fear. And tomorrow, I'll have to remember this if I can find it. It's pretty profound. It's come a book, Reasons to Stay Alive. And I know I have it here somewhere. It's such a profound thing. Matt Hahn, I think is his name. It's this page about the world's not designed to lift us up. It wants to keep us in fear. It wants to keep us afraid. How do you sell anti-aging cream? Make people afraid of getting older. How do you sell this? Have people be afraid. So it really is a good practice to be like, when fear knocks at the door, it's like, is that the voice I want to believe? Is that the voice I want to believe? The voice of fear? And just see. And if I find that, I'll hop back on and I'll read it. I know it's in one of my files. But anyway, I hope you found that helpful. I'll post this on YouTube, and we'll see you back here tomorrow with day 15. Joan, great to see you. Haiti, Ginger, and if I find that, I'll hop back on here really, really quick and read that one. All right, take care. Bye-bye.